This video will provide a demonstration of the procedures for the safe installation of a B&D Series 1 roller door, B&D Firmador roll-up door, or B&D Rollmaster. The components may be different in appearance, however the installation process is identical. B&D recommend that all garage doors be installed by trained garage door installers. Before commencing installation, consider the safety hazards of this job, including working at heights, manual handling, working on ladders, use of hacksaws, heavy lifting and carrying. Here's what you'll need. Before you start, you should check you have the correct tools to complete the installation. Power drill and bits, file, hacksaw, 2 step ladders, adhesive tape, tape measure, marking pen, Phillips head screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, hammer, multi-grips, socket set, spirit level, Stanley knife, water level, 450mm pipe wrench, installation instructions, and lifting equipment or appropriate rope slings. B&D rolling doors are designed to be mounted behind the opening. Therefore, you'll need to check the opening width, opening height, side room, and headroom. Ensure the work area and pathway to the work area are clear of any obstruction to prevent slipping or tripping, or manual handling and door damage hazards. Secure the area and inform all people that it's a work site and they must stay out of the area whilst the door's being installed. You'll also need to check that the opening is level and plumb and that it's structurally suitable. Ensure the opening is strong enough to support the door. If in doubt, consult a licensed builder. The door will fit any opening height up to the marked door size. A door cannot be installed higher than its maximum size. However, it can be installed in a lower position, providing the door guides are cut to size. As the door overlaps each side by 25mm or more, the door should be 50mm wider than the opening. A wider door can be fitted, as long as additional side room and fixing is available. The door is supported on brackets, mounted above the opening at each end, and requires headroom and backroom for the door to roll up in. You should refer to the installation instructions provided in the parts bag for these. A minimum of 75mm side room is required each side of the opening and should extend above the head to allow for bracket fixing. However, 100mm is desirable. A minimum side room on one side of the door of 115mm is required if a B&D automatic opener is to be fitted now or in the future. Ensure the surface where the door will be fitted is flush and smooth, and the area behind the opening is free from any protrusions. Your B&D door will come delivered with identification tags and protective packaging. Do not cut or unwrap the door roll packaging at this stage. Remove the brackets, bag of parts, guides and locking bars from each end of the door. Make sure you've been delivered the correct components and correct parts bag, which can be identified by colour. There's a parts checklist inside your written installation instructions. Determine your fixing requirements. The standard fixing that comes supplied with B&D rolling doors are coach screws for attaching to timberwork. There's an option for steel fixing at the point of order. Remember, it's the installer's responsibility to ensure the fixing method is sound and correct for the job. When deciding on the fixing method, dynamic loads on door brackets as well as the door weight must be considered. If in doubt, consult a licensed builder. For attaching brackets for Series 1 doors to steel prefabricated sheds, B&D recommend you use 3 of 14 by 10 by 25mm hexagonal head self-drilling screws with washers in slotted holes provided in the bracket. Installing the first bracket. To install the brackets, you must determine your headroom requirements. For doors up to 2200mm high, standard headroom is 350mm. For doors over 2200mm high, standard headroom is 370mm. Before fitting the first bracket, allow for door overlap and mark equal amounts on each jamb. Allow clearance between this mark and the bracket. Allow extra if an opener is being fitted. Then mark the jamb for the bracket position. Provided the standard headroom is available, measure up 120mm on one side only and mark. This is the point at which the first bracket is to be fixed using the slotted holes. Installing the second bracket. Use a water level to mark the position for the height of the second bracket on the opposite jamb. Use the same side room measurement as previously used. Now fix the second bracket in the same way as the first and double check the levels. If minor adjustment is required, the brackets can move vertically or horizontally using the slotted holes. Preparing the door guides. Ensure that the guide is on the correct side and is the correct length. They must be level with the top of the brackets. If the guides are too long, they'll need to be cut to the correct length. If headroom is restricted, guides may be up to 35 mm longer. Only cut from the bottom of the guide. Slide half the number of guide clips into each guide. Using the original mark for the door overlap, fit the first guide using the top fixed lug. Secure in the center of the slot with a Tek screw and washer to allow for future adjustment. Ensuring the guide is plumb, the bottom guide clip should be fixed in the same way, approximately 200 mm up from the floor. Then loosely secure the remaining guide clips, spaced evenly along the length of the guide. The second guide should be fixed in the same way and loosely secured outboard of the door overlap mark to allow for easier door curtain entry when installing. The final adjustment can be made later. Placing the door on the brackets. Check the axle length and cut to size if the side room is limited. Before cutting, you should make sure that the floating axle is free and centered. The center can be found by rotating the axle a quarter turn in either direction and then releasing. With the center found, make a clear mark on the axle against the hub. You'll need this for future reference. Ensure the door is the correct way around. The door should roll down from the front of the opening. Before lifting the door onto the brackets, trim the excess plastic wrap back to the door curtain edge. This will make the curtain to guide alignment easier. The method for lifting a door onto its brackets is very important for safety. Our installers are using rope slings, but there are a number of suitable methods. Ensure that you use an approved lifting method. Immediately fit the U-bolt, saddles, washers and nuts around the axle and to the bracket. Do not tighten them yet. The two slots closest to you are normally the ones to use. Ensure that the floating axle is also centered with the door. You can do this by lining up the previous marks you made with the hub and lifting both the axle and the door together until it's centered with the opening and the curtain is aligned with the first fixed guide. Rotate the curtain and axle so that the bottom rail of the door is positioned as shown at the 3 o'clock position. Pull the axle back in the slots away from the opening and tighten the nuts firmly to a torque of 10 Nm or 6.6 foot-pounds. Tensioning the springs. Rotate the door 1 1/4 turns in a forward direction to apply tension. Hold the door firmly by the bottom rail. Now cut the plastic wrap along the bottom rail, taking care not to damage the door surface or weather seal. Without letting go, pull the curtain down slowly into the door guides, taking care not to damage the door's surface. Without letting go, either fit the bottom rail head stops or chock the door. Now care should be taken when chocking to prevent damage. When this is done, carefully let go of the door, as over-tensioned doors will rise quickly and cause damage or injury. If not already fitted, attach the metal stops to the bottom rail of the door by hooking the stop behind the lip in the rail. Then secure from underneath with the screws supplied. Now trim the ends of the weather seal to suit the door width. Final adjustment of the guides. Allowing approximately 3 mm clearance between the inside of the guide and the plastic roller guide, adjust and tighten the second guide. Operate the door up and down. If satisfied and the adjustment is correct, fit and tighten all the remaining guide clips. With the door in the open position and secured with ropes, undo the U-bolt nuts and move the axle as far forward as possible, ensuring that the external nylon felt is not catching the top of the guide. Then retighten the U-bolt and repeat on the other side. Installing the center lift lock. Using adhesive tape, attach the lock face plate to the outside of the door. Attach the lock body to the faceplate from the inside, using the mounting screws and washers. Do not over-tighten the screws. With the door in the closed position, mark the position of the locking bars onto the guides. Drill and file out slots no longer than 25 mm and no wider than 10 mm. Raise the curtain until the lock corrugation is visible above the door guides. Install the locking bar retainer in line with the lock corrugation by pushing the retainer towards the door edge, sliding the legs under the nylon felt and hooking them over the curtain edge. It's easier to hook the legs one at a time. Ensure the lock bar retainers sit squarely on the door curtain. Measure and cut the locking bars to the correct length. They should be flush with the edge of the door in the unlocked position. Ensure the top of the slot remains in line with the top of the locking bar. Slide the bars through the guide slot, then back onto the lock arms. Screw on securely using the 4x6 mm screw supplied. Before fitting the safety covers to the lock bar holes, ensure the surface is clean and dry. Peel off the lining from the lock bar cover and position over the hole and press firmly in place. Final adjustment. If the door is hard to operate in any direction, check that the door is not tight on the guides. Check the guide clearances. Check that the guides are plumb. Check that the guide surfaces are clean and free from oil or metal burrs. Check that the locking bars are the correct length. And check that the weather seal is the correct length. Operating effort. The door should require the same effort to open or close. If the door is hard to lift but tends to drop, then increase the spring tension. If the door is hard to close but tends to rise, then decrease the spring tension. Door tension safety. Please be aware that the potential energy stored in the springs can cause serious injury if released in an uncontrolled manner. Follow the instructions carefully. With the door in the open position, tie 2 ropes around the door roll, approximately 300 mm from each end, as a safety precaution. With the person at each end of the door, hold the axle firmly with a large pipe wrench, at least 450 mm long. Loosen the U-bolt nuts at both ends and keep a firm grip on the wrench. Rotate the axle in the required direction. Pull the wrench down to increase spring tension or lift the wrench up to decrease the spring tension. Retighten the U-bolts before releasing the pipe wrench. Test and repeat if further adjustment is necessary. If the door rolls up crooked, then there are 3 things you should check. Check that the brackets are level. Check that the guides are plumb. And check that the axle is centralized. If these basic rules are followed, with minor maintenance, the door will give good operation for many years. Minor maintenance includes cleaning and polishing the interior surface of the guide, but do not lubricate. Washing and cleaning the door surface in line with Blue Scope Steel recommendations. Light oiling of the door lock is recommended. If an opener is fitted, regularly release the opener from the door and check the door operation. You've been watching a B&D training presentation.